Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. We're live on Radio Row. All of our Super Bowl 54 coverage brought to you by our friends at Sport Culture and, of course, Raskin Global. Merril Hoge back on the set here, breaking down plays. And, the Steelers guys always come by, and they're always, so gentlemanly after all of these years of hard battle. Ravens fans are struggling right now, and I know it's going to be hard-pressed to find anybody in the Steelers world that's going to feel sorry for the 14-2 Ravens, especially with Lamar coming back, right? Yeah.
Well, let me just tell you this. I didn't think the team, the way they could run the ball and the way they stopped the run, I felt would be very difficult for a team to create the right formula to derail that. And actually, Tennessee obviously did create the right formula. And there was a couple times during the season, the Cleveland Browns did it to them. They kind of reversed it on them. They ran the ball on them, and they did a pretty good job of neutralizing it. Actually, the Steelers' defense probably did the best against their running game because they do what I think you should do in the past. If you want to back up a little bit, Lamar Jackson, the way they ran the football, it's never been done in NFL history, where you actually incorporated the quarterback as a big integral part of the running game, not just the read option stuff, the actual deliberate runs. I mean, can't think of any other quarterback. Michael Vick, they never did that with, where they deliberately designed power, creative perimeter runs where the quarterback was an integral part of it.
On every play.
Now, that being said, it was actually the Ravens who, if you remember when the read option first came into the league, one of the first times early on was when RG3 was in Washington. And we got the MVP that year. They just destroyed defense with that read option. And what was fascinating when it first was introduced, I was like, okay, I never thought I would see this. In the NFL, you're going to leave an unblocked defender. You're going to sit in the backfield and take about a half a second longer than you normally would, which is unheard of.
Everyone's hips have to freeze.
Well, not just that. Just you're taking so much time in the backfield. You're leaving an unblocked defender. I mean, those are that's a cardinal sin. Because as a runner, you're like, okay, listen, getting to the line of scrimmage in timely fashion is important because the game is so quick in the box. The game has talked about how much faster it is, which it is faster, but to me, it was much more quick and athletic and intelligent than any other level that you play at. So to do that in the backfield, I was like, wow, this is incredible. Okay, so the Ravens come into Washington. They do what I believe everybody should have done, this version of it. The Patriots do it later to Tim Tebow. But Tim Tebow wasn't near the runner that these guys were, and then just destroyed him in the playoffs. But what the Ravens did is that unblocked defender did not stay there in a neutral state and read it. They made him attack. And if I remember how they did it, I think they targeted the upfield shoulder of RG3, forcing him to hand the ball off. And then they did the right things in the box to take apart. So they dictated the read. They didn't leave it neutral where they could be out of position. They attacked. And see, the Steelers actually did that, and I was wondering, why didn't more teams really do that type of thing? And actually the Titans did a little bit of that. They did that. They also had a great job from their safety position dropping down into the right spot so that they had things accounted for. So they kind of attacked. See, I still think the read option puts you in a vulnerable state offensively if a defense will do that. Because you're back there reading. If that guy makes a commitment. Now with Lamar Jackson, well, shoot, the way they ran the ball either way, you got to pick who do you want, where do you want the ball.
Well, the interesting part for me in the whole year, I covered the team, and the only game I missed was the Buffalo game. After the Rams game, and think about how demoralized the Rams were that night, right?
Yeah.
In those pretty purple uniforms, Lamar's running around 45-6. And I know Weddle pretty well, through the years. And Weddle's on the other side, and he was up the hallway there at USC, in the tunnel. You can't even get in the locker rooms. And he's standing with me and a couple of the Baltimore reporters. He's like, I practiced against it for a year. I thought, we'd have a chance. And he said, but I didn't know where the ball was. I could never see the ball.
Yeah.
And so I never –
See, then they were reading. And then that's not what – that's not how I believe you do it. You attack it. See, like that underblocked defender, you decide, do we want the ball in the quarterback's hands or the runner's hands, okay? So where that unblocked defender goes, when it's a read option, they're not always read options, but about 50% of them were. So on those times, we're targeting the upfield shoulder. Let's just say, let's make him hand it off. Let's target the upfield shoulder because he's so dynamic on the perimeter, Lamar is. Let's target his upfield shoulder. That's going to force him to hand the ball off. Now, the box, we really have to be disciplined where our fits are from our safety position to our linebacker to our defense line. If we do that, we're dictating now. We're not reading.
You're not guessing.
I think that's a problem when you're asking them to read. You won't outread them. They're too good at that. Lamar is outstanding at being able to read that and have that feel. Take that away from him. Attack it. Make him force his decision. You know now who the ball carrier is going to be. And the teams that did that, which the Titans did a version of that, the Steelers did a lot of that when they were in Pittsburgh.
I don't remember. We had a conversation last year. Were you a believer that this could work to the level of 14-2, that a quarterback could stay healthy enough to do it and execute it, and also that Lamar would get better? Like, we're coming off the Chargers game this time last year. We can obviously say he got better, but then if you're a believer in that, I guess then you would say, well, he's going to come down here to his homeland of Miami, a Super Bowl he felt like he should have played in, and get even more motivated, that he can get better over the next 3 or 4 years to, when things aren't working well and when you're behind, lead a team to win.
Well, to answer that question, their ability to mold their running game, you had to give them a fair shake to that because they really didn't do that last year. They started one way, then they flipped. I mean, you can't develop an offense. It's very hard to, anyway, to develop something that everybody feels good at if you're starting to work on it, and you got 3 days to get ready for the next game. Now, if you do it all spring, training camp, mini camps, training camps, well, that's a whole different game, which obviously they did a great job of doing that. Keeping him healthy, that's always a risk. Here's what's going to ultimately come down to his growth. And it got exposed again in the playoffs. He wasn't a good passer in Louisville. Here was his problems. He wasn't a good decision maker, and he wasn't accurate. Okay, I don't believe those things ever change. Accuracy doesn't change. You are who you are. That's like saying you are a 4.6 guy, and I'm going to get you to run a 4.4. Ain't happening.
You don't believe accuracy can be improved?
Absolutely not.
Wow, okay.
Absolutely not. And anybody who tells you that is an absolute liar. And if you ask them, in the live environment, he's going to go right back to who he is. Now, what they'll say is, we can do all these drills, and you can look better, and you actually can be much. But that's when the environment is perfect, and it's doing drills. When you go back into a live environment, you become who you are. If you are not a very accurate passer, that's going to be who you are. And what happens with that, it usually happens when it matters. It happens on critical throws. It happens in critical moments. You can make some throws. He makes throws, and he can make good throws. But really, when you watch that playoff game, when he had to throw, it was a 50-50 ball, 50% of the time. You cannot win consistently in the environment of the National Football League like that. And that's eventually where he's going to have to transition what he does with these legs into his arm. I didn't see it in college when he came out. I've seen nothing of evidence this year that says he will be able to do that on a consistent basis. And that is going to be a problem until he can do that. And so I just think it's a daunting task. You're asking a guy that is not very accurate to be more accurate. Can you work on being accurate? Absolutely. And you should work on those things. But it doesn't make you just an accurate passer all of a sudden. Your accuracy to me and I really learned this, confirmed it in a youth environment where I have a group of kids that are 8 years old. I got guys who want to play quarterback, and there's one guy that is just, oh my gosh. He just, no matter where he throws, it is accurate. He just has a gift of accuracy. The other two guys were very good. And we worked, and they all end up playing quarterback all the way through high school. So I watched these guys for a decade.
Wow, okay.
And here's what happens. There's 3 of them.
And this is in your hometown?
Yeah, and I'm coaching them, okay? And the one kid that's accurate, he is always accurate. He's running to the left, accurate, right, accurate, pocket accurate. It never changes. As he goes on in his career, he is just like. In fact, he ends up being a Division I player. These other 2 kids who wanted to play quarterback, and they could throw the football, and they were just not accurate. But we would do drills.
Do you think people can get better at putting? Do you think people can get better at,
Well, that's
literally,
different. So that's
free throws.
putting.
Free throws. You know?
Listen, I think that some people. Listen, everybody has different levels in that. You know what they're really good at, their techniques and their fundamentals. Accuracy to me that's like a gift. You know, when you're a 4.4 guy. You're a 4.4 guy. If you're a 4.6 guy, you'll never be able to run a 4.4. You might get a little better. I might get you to 4.5, but I'm never going to get you to 4.4 because that is just 4.4, 4.3 is a rare kind of speed, and I can't take a 4.7 or 4.6 guy and make you that. It's not going to happen. You just don't have the gifts to have that speed. And it's really the same thing with accuracy. It is a gift that you have. Now, that doesn't mean you ignore it. You still got to work at it. But you are who you are. And I just think that's sometimes where a lot of mistakes are made in coaching is that you ignore that or you think, oh, I'll fix that. I've never seen it fixed. I'll give you a great example. A guy who was inconsistent as a passer, Donovan McNabb. If you go to the NFC Championship game and you look at the Arizona Cardinals, both of them are set up with almost the exact same scenario. I believe Philly was first. It was a 3rd and something. And Donovan McNabb had a wide open. I can't remember who it was, and he actually threw it in the dirt. They punt. Cardinals will go on the drive, last drive of the game. They have a 3rd and whatever it was. Kurt Warner hits. Kurt Warner was just a gifted, accurate passer. I watched him in arena football. One of my first arena games I ever did. I was like, man, this cat throws off his left foot, right foot.
He's not going to be stocking groceries for long.
Right. I'm like, well, I didn't know he was going there. I was just like, that dude can throw it everywhere, and it's always accurate. It's crazy. And he threw always a 3rd and 5. I mean, it was right on the money so the wide receiver could run. And see, completing a pass is not accuracy. See, people in college, when we'll get into the draft, they'll go, oh, his completion percentage is 70%. He's accurate. No, it's not. It has nothing to do with accuracy. You got to go look and go, was there a run after the catch? Where was the ball placed from the defense? Though that is accuracy. You got to really study and look at accuracy. That's completion percentage. Irrelevant to accuracy. So, like when Lamar, when I was watching him come out of college, I was like, wow, he's just not an accurate passer.
Do you think they can win a Super Bowl? No. You're not a believer, or you?
No.
You're a believer in the system?
I think. Listen, it's hard when you miss that passing phase. See, it's just like let's go. There's only one team that could debunk what I'm about to say. When you don't have, let's use the Patriots when they're undefeated. They go to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
What is the one thing? Did anybody talk about their running game during that year? Their running game was irrelevant that season. You go to the New York Giants, they line up defensive ends across the board. They're telling you, go ahead and run the ball because we don't think you will because you're throwing the ball, and that's why they win. The Patriots if the Patriots would have lined up and run the ball 30 times, they'd have probably destroyed the Giants because the Giants were giving them that. They were like, you are not going to run it. We're going to just get after your quarterback. That's all we got to do. That's why they put their defensive line, or their defensive ends, over the guards and centers and brought ends that rush the passer.
Ideology is everything, right, in the matchup.
Right. And so what I'm getting at is it eventually caught them. Even though their passing game was dynamic and it was some of the best we'd seen in NFL history, they didn't have another phase to their offense when they got to the big game, and they couldn't lean on that. And if you go to the Super Bowls, they have one when they played the Philadelphia Eagles. In that matchup I was talking to you about in the Super Bowl, they end up winning the Super Bowl because what happens? The Eagles are pounding Brady. The Patriots are pounding Donovan McNabb. What is the Patriots' response? They give it to Corey Dillon like 8 straight times, calm everything down, score a touchdown. Philly has nowhere to turn, but they stay with Donovan McNabb. You just have to have other phases to your offense. So they're going to have to get a passing phase if the running game is gone. And there's going to be teams that are going to be better at it, especially going next year, because now they're going to look at all those runs, they're looking at the ways teams that were successful, and they're going to have to deal with that. They're going to have answers to it, and they're going to have to eventually be better in the passing game. They complement it well, but when it goes away, they can't. To rely on that passing game it's just not good enough to win on a consistent basis.
The Factor back talking offense with us and the Greg Roman, Lamar Jackson offense for Special Olympics. Let's talk about Special Olympics a little bit. I've had a lot of visitors this week. I know you've been visiting and had visitors with you on other sets because I've seen you. We had the polar bear plunge last week where we are, and it is the biggest deal ever. And I literally said to my wife last week, and I've had the Kennedys, on the Shriver family and other people, and I mean in Baltimore it's sort of ubiquitous to January, and when the Ravens are in the playoffs, and Flacco's done it, and Michael McCrary did it in the pink tutu 20 years ago. And I said to myself, man, you come up with an idea that we're all going to run out and jump in the water in the cold. Yeah, let's see. We'll get a lot of people to do that. And I'm like, I'm just shocked at how unbelievably, it's ubiquitous, man. It's like everybody does it.
Right.
I don't do it. I'm not a Wim Hof guy. I know it's good for me. I'm a Tony Robbins. I know it's good for me to jump in the cold tub. I just don't do it. But I know Special Olympics does things like this all over the country, and where we are, it just happens to be the polar bear plunge.
Well, I will tell you this. First charity event that I ever got involved with was Special Olympics back when I was in college as a freshman.
Okay.
I don't know a lot about them, but they had special needs, and they wanted to get them involved in track and compete.
Movement.
And have that experience. And
of winning, right?
If I'd be a part, hold on to that winning part. Yes. And that's what I'm thinking.
Competing,
winning and they
right.
compete, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, man, I'd never done anything like that, be able to give back and help. I'm like, I was really excited about that. Well, I was in charge of, I can't remember, it was like the 50-yard race, 60-yard race. And, they helped us with what we were going to do, where the athletes would go after, how we do the medal ceremonies and so forth and so on. Race gets done. The girl who got last comes up to me and she's like, "What?" She goes, "What place did I get?" And the last sounds so bad, and I'm just scrambling my head like, how can I not say last? I go, "You got 6th place." She goes, "Oh, did I get a medal?" I said, "Yeah, we get 1 through 6." She goes, "Sweet, awesome." I was like, I fell in love because I was like, I loved the energy, I loved the perspective,
Sure.
they were competing. And it was
a good use of your time,
and they
right?
were, but they were supportive of each other.
Yeah,
and I was like, God, I just learned so much.
Yeah, cool.
And where it has come today, what they're doing. Okay, now you have the Special Olympics. You got athletes winning gold medals. You have an environment that you have created where they can now compete. But their message is invest in your health. We need to have people moving and taking care of themselves, nutrition-wise and activity-wise. And if you think about the biggest issue in this country is obesity, sugar consumption, their example and their mission should be an example for all of us that is the one thing we all have a responsibility. Take care of ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
How we eat and being active is a vital component to not just short-term health but long-term health.
And health insurance in our country. Boom.
Amen. No, we could do a whole. You could do a whole show
That's
on
the next
that.
Podcast
We'll do that podcast later. But I just love their mission and their message, and I think it's not something we can support, but something we can learn from.
There you go, man. Good to see you.
Always.
Merril Hoge here for the Special Olympics and for former Steelers everywhere stopping by on Radio Row. We're here. It's all brought to you by our friends at Sporticulture. If I don't have a Steeler one, but you can get one. Sporticulture.com is the way to do that. I also have my Magma lamp back in the studio. We'll get to that. Back for more in Miami Beach before I lose my voice. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.